The conscious adult isn't just the part of you that makes better choices. It is, but there's another part. It's the part of you that parents yourself well. This is the part that has resources, tools, and capacity that your younger parts possibly didn't get in your environment growing up. It's the part that can pause when the inner child is scared rather than reacting impulsively. It's the part that can hold boundaries when your inner teenager wants to blow everything up. It's the part that can stay connected to your integrity while your maladaptive adult wants to numb, run, or self-abandon. Welcome to Grow with Robin Breckenridge, a podcast about stepping into the most fully expressed, aligned, and conscious version of yourself. Here, we dive into the real work of personal growth, establishing boundaries, understanding your patterns, building self-trust, healing emotional wounds, and creating relationships that feel safe, authentic, and fulfilling. I'm Robin, a life and relationship coach, and in each episode, we'll explore the tools, insights, and conversations that will help you not just improve your life and relationships, but truly transform them. You don't have to just go through it. Let's grow through it, and let's do it together. Hi, and welcome back. If you've been following this series, you've done some really powerful work. We've looked back, way back, into the parts of you that were formed in response to your earliest experiences. We've met your inner child, the most dependent and vulnerable part of you that needed safety and love. We've explored your inner teenager, the part that might be protective, reactive, maybe sometimes rebellious, yet still craved belonging. And we've met your maladaptive adult, the part that tries to solve emotional pain with whatever coping strategies it learned, even when those strategies don't serve you anymore. Each of those parts has shown you something real. The feelings that live inside you, the actions you take to manage those feelings, and the patterns that have quietly been running the show. This exploration isn't about blaming or shaming any of those parts. Your parts of self will never be more conscious than they were at the time. It's about understanding that every pattern you've ever used started as protection. It was your nervous system's way of keeping you safe, connected, loved, validated. But here's the deeper reality. What once protected you can now keep you stuck. The same patterns that kept you safe as a child can sabotage your relationships as an adult. The same strategies that helped you survive can block you from thriving. And that's why today's episode is such an important turning point in this work. Because this is where we start shifting from looking back to looking forward. This is where we stop letting our past run our present. This is where we stop reacting from our old wounds and start responding from our wisdom. This is where we stop being passengers to our feelings and start driving our own lives. The part of you that allows that shift, the part that can take everything you've learned about your feelings, your patterns, and your history and use it to make new choices is the part of you that I call your conscious adult. This is the part of you that doesn't get built by accident. It's created slowly, intentionally, and with deep awareness. It's the version of you who can hold the scared child, understand the angry teenager, and lovingly interrupt the patterns of the maladaptive adult. It's the version of you who can pause before reacting, make decisions from integrity and values instead of impulse, and lead your life instead of being led by it. So what does consciousness even mean? Consciousness is the state of being aware, especially of something within yourself. It's the difference between reacting and responding, between surviving and leading. When we're unconscious, we run on autopilot. We repeat the same patterns over and over, avoiding conflict, chasing unavailable people, overworking, people-pleasing, numbing, and then we wonder why nothing changes. When we become conscious, everything becomes a choice. We choose whether to set a boundary or to swan dive into the drama. We choose whether to feed resentment or cultivate peace. We choose whether to abandon ourselves or stand firmly in alignment with our worth. And where we put our energy, that's what grows. I want you to pause and really think about this. How many of your daily reactions are truly choices? When your partner snaps, do you respond with curiosity or do you default to shut down or defensiveness? When you feel lonely, do you reach out intentionally or text someone who's already shown they can't meet you? When shame creeps in, do you soothe and ground yourself? Or do you beat yourself up, spiral, overwork, and prove? These are the crossroads where the conscious adult steps in. It's not about being perfect. It's about being present enough and connected enough to yourself to choose differently. Many years ago, I watched a documentary on Tony Robbins. A lot of you probably know who he is. For those of you that don't, Tony Robbins is the biggest life coach of all time. Sells out stadiums full of people. And I watched this documentary years ago when he was standing on the stage in this packed stadium full of people. And he said, I get this question all the time. What's the difference between this guy that you're looking at on the stage and all of you? He said, the difference is the guy you're looking at didn't just happen. I built this motherfucker. As soon as I heard that, I went, oh, right. That's the conscious adult. I think maybe prior to that enlightened moment, I just thought like, wow, people are like healthy or they're not. And I'm just maybe not one of those healthy people. And what I realized is that that healthiest part of us is built by intention. It's not who you wake up as. It's who you build. You build it brick by brick, choice by choice. It's the part that pauses before reacting, that protects without pushing away, and that nurtures without losing itself. It's the part that has the luxury of responding from wisdom, not wounding. So patterns aren't just an ineffective way of managing your feelings. That's one part. But another part is that they can reinforce the very pain that we're desperately trying to escape. When we people please, resentment grows. When we avoid, we grow more loneliness or shame or anxiety. Avoidance can breed a whole lot of feelings. When we compare, our inadequacy grows. When we overwork, our exhaustion and self-abandonment multiplies. We start to believe we are broken. Something's wrong with us, but we're not. It's the pattern that's broken, not you. And once we can see it clearly, we have the power to change it. I know specifically for myself that when I really got curious with how I was managing the emotion of shame when it would come up, I was beating myself up every time, comparing myself to others, telling myself terrifying stories. And then when I really looked at it through the lens of where I put my energy grows, I'm like, wow, this very feeling that like I would easily pay like $1 million to get out of. The way that I'm responding to it is actually growing more of the feeling I don't want to feel. So one of the most important truths about becoming conscious is this: what where you put your energy grows. If you feed shame with self-criticism, shame grows. If you feed loneliness with chasing, rejection grows. If you feed unmet needs by trying to change others, disappointment grows. If you feed curiosity, compassion, aligned action, those grow instead. It's not about pretending things are fine. It's about choosing where to direct your energy towards peace, love, joy, safety, and self-trust, and refusing to keep watering the weeds, in quotation marks, or the negative vibrational experiences that we're having. So let's shift this concept of choice into creation. I'm going to give you guys something to do. This is something that I do with my own clients. I want you to, if you're driving, do it later. If you're not, I want you to put your hand on your heart. I want you to close your eyes. And I want you to hear this invitation. I want you to think of 5 positive feelings, because now we're looking forward. When we talked about your inner child, your teen, your maladaptive adult, we had to take a brief look in the rearview mirror. But now I want to look not at the challenging feelings we experienced. So let's take this concept of choice and turn it into creation. Attached in the show notes is a downloadable worksheet. I want you to use that, or you can just take a journal and write it in. Doesn't matter. But I want you to put your hand on your heart and close your eyes if that's available to you. If you're driving, if you're busy, please don't do that. You can come back to this later. But I would like for you to connect your body to this question. And I want you to think of 5 positive feelings that you would like to grow more of in the life you're creating. When we looked at your inner child, your inner teen, your maladaptive adult, we had to take a brief look in the rearview mirror. We had to look at those challenging feelings that were hard for you to manage then, because that's where the patterns are illuminated. Maybe those things that are unconscious that we need to shine the light of consciousness on to be able to see, so that we can choose and shift and choose differently going forward. But for this particular part, we're looking forward, not back. We're looking into the positive feelings that we want to experience, not the challenging ones. So I want you to write down 5 positive feelings that you want to experience in the life you're creating. Some examples could be freedom, happiness, love, self-love, confidence. And then, just like we did in the other episodes, I want you to align an action with this, but this time it's a little bit different than the other parts of self. I want you to align an action that would grow more of that feeling. So I'm going to give you an example. Let's say you want to experience more of the positive feeling of freedom in your life. What action can you take to grow more freedom in your life? Now, an example is, for me, managing guilt, which you might not know how to do in this moment. That might be something that you can take into your own professional work. You could dig into through reading podcasts. I'm also going to be addressing some of these feelings, but I know that for myself, I could not experience freedom and guilt at the same time. Guilt to me is an emotional cage. Another way to grow more freedom in your life might be to set a boundary so that you are showing up to the life that you want, showing up to those authentic yeses. Maybe freedom is pulling back a little bit on your workload. It can be a small, minute action. It can be a big action. We're going to go a little bit more into specifics about these actions in future episodes. But for right now, what action could you take to grow more of that feeling? I'll give you another example. Happiness. What we could do, an action that would grow more happiness, is be intentional. Schedule something that brings you joy one time in your week this week, or maybe it's every day. If you want to grow more love, an action that could grow more love is prioritizing meaningful connection. I know that sometimes we can get so busy that we don't have the time for the people that we enjoy going and grabbing that lunch with or scheduling a FaceTime with. If you want to grow more self-love, a great way to do that, an action that would grow more self-love, is practicing compassionate self-talk. Maybe it's writing something kind to yourself in your journal. One of my favorite things is writing 3 to 5 things that you're proud of yourself for every day. But generally speaking, even if we just observe, because that's an action, how we're speaking to ourselves, which I know I gave that invitation at some point in one of these episodes, that is doing it differently. We cannot have confidence and self-love if we are constantly putting ourselves down. Confidence, an action that could grow more confidence, is doing something that scares you, trying something new. To me, confidence means I know I can do that. It's kind of along that idea of data over time. I know that I'll speak for myself, but I probably speak for anybody who has a core shame wound. It's really hard to be new at things when you have a lot of internalized shame. I know that it's hard for me. So doing something new, I know that at a time in my life, like I didn't do new things because I didn't know how to manage not being good at something, which when we start something or we're new at something, the realistic expectation is that we wouldn't be maybe good at it or a pro at it. So doing something that scares you, trying something new, it's all building that data over time that like you can do these things. You can do hard things, that you can do new things, and you can build more confidence. This is how the conscious adult builds the life you want, not by wanting to feel different, but by intentionally showing up to actions that grow more of the emotional experiences you want to have in your life. Here's something important I also want you guys to know. The conscious adult isn't just the part of you that makes better choices. It is, but there's another part. It's the part of you that parents yourself well. This is the part that has resources, tools, and capacity that your younger parts possibly didn't get in your environment growing up. It's the part that can pause when the inner child is scared rather than reacting impulsively. It's the part that can hold boundaries when your inner teenager wants to blow everything up. It's the part that can stay connected to your integrity while your maladaptive adult wants to numb, run, or self-abandon. It's the part that can connect to parts of self, protect those parts of self, nurture those parts of self, and empower yourself. I know that there have been times in my own journey where connecting to my inner child, my different parts of self brought up a lot of grief, a lot of sadness. And there were times where I could have stayed kind of like commiserating with those parts of self. But this work, all of this work, is about empowerment, not disempowerment. And I've said it before, I'm going to say it again. Anytime we are disempowered, we will suffer. So I can look back in that rearview mirror. I can have compassion, empathy, understanding for those parts, what they've been through, how they feel. But I also will empower them because now I have so many more resources, like boundaries, like self-care, like the ability to ask for what I need, have hard conversations. So the conscious adult is also the part of you that can reparent, which means it can offer the very things you needed back when you were at that age but didn't receive. It's the part that can listen instead of dismissing, intellectualizing, or minimizing your feelings. It can emotionally attune, which means it can tune into what you're feeling and communicating and respond appropriately. If your inner child is scared, it offers safety. If your inner teen is angry, it offers boundaries and validation. If your maladaptive adult is exhausted, it offers rest and structure. It can provide solutions, not from panic, but from grounded wisdom. It has access to tools, regulation practices, communication skills, coping strategies, discernment, and an internal dialogue that maybe wasn't available to you when those patterns were formed. Also, it's just nicer. It's a part of you that can be an empathetic witness to your shame. It's the part that when embarrassment, humiliation, or maybe the ways we protected ourselves brings about more shame, it's the part that can go, you're human. And instead of beating you up, why don't we learn from it? This part of you is the safe parent. It's the safe parent you always needed. The internal secure base that you always needed. And once you start building it, you realize you're not waiting for someone else to save you anymore. You become the person who shows up for you. You become the one you've been waiting for. So keep in mind, building this part of you does not happen all at once. It happens in small, meaningful moments over and over again. Every time you pause before reacting, you're strengthening the muscle of consciously self-leadership. Every time you stay curious instead of critical, you're expanding your capacity to shift from judgment to curiosity. Every time you meet a feeling with compassion instead of shame, you're reparenting the part of you that once felt alone in that feeling. Every time you choose to protect your peace over chasing chaos, you're building safety from the inside out. Every time you choose integrity over impulsiveness, you're creating the foundation for a life that feels aligned, authentic, and deeply your own. And slowly, one step at a time, those small moments add up. They become a new way of being, not driven by your history and your wounds, but guided by your wisdom and your wholeness. So before we close, I want to leave you with a question to sit with this week. What is one moment this week where I can choose to respond from my conscious adult? The part of me that listens, attunes, protects, and leads, instead of reacting from my past. Now, I want to be so clear in my directive here. There is no possible way that anybody that's just listening to this podcast will have it down to listen to your parts, attune, protect, and lead. What I'm asking you to do is lean in. The umbrella of this work is do it differently. There is some place in your life, and hopefully these episodes have highlighted at least one thing that is no longer working for you, or one challenging feeling that we know the way that you're managing it is not in alignment with who you are anymore. Let's lean into doing one thing differently. In fact, I had a client this week that called me. She was working on doing something differently in her life. And she said, well, I know doing it differently means I would block this person and never talk to him again. Well, that is one way we could do it differently. Another way, and what I wrote her back was, hey, the fact that you've given communication with him this much forethought, just FYI, just that is different. And let's recognize it, that sometimes we can't change the whole outcome or the entire behavior, but it starts with doing one small thing differently. Maybe it's a conversation. Maybe it's a boundary, a decision, or the way that you show up to a feeling. And when that moment comes, pause and remember, you have tools now. You got a whole podcast. I believe this is episode 27 or 28, full of tools. You have choices now. And you have the capacity to show up for yourself in a way you never could before. So this week, my invitation to you is to think of 5 positive feelings that you want to experience and grow more of in the life you're creating. Almost like we have a crystal ball in front of us and we go, all right, if I could craft how I want to feel in this life, what would those feelings be? And then I want you to think of one action for each one of those feelings that would grow more of the feeling that you want to feel. As always, you are welcome to DM me. You're welcome to email me. If you have any questions, if you want to share some of these positive feelings, keep in mind, this is not the end of the podcast. So if you go, okay, I want to feel more peace. I want to feel more freedom. I want to feel more joy, but what? I have no idea what action to take. That's where we'll start next week. I will bring you a whole list of things that you can do that will be possibilities of doing it differently to the current way that you are managing and tolerating your feelings. But for today, I wanted to introduce the conscious adult. I wanted to connect you to this part. And I wanted to just bring in the hope and the possibility that we do have agency in our life, that we can create the highest, healthiest version. And we can take that version out and be the most fully expressed version of us in this life. So I'm going to leave you with a mantra, and then we'll pick back up on this topic next week. I am becoming the safe, grounded presence I always needed. I choose how I respond. I choose what I want to grow. With awareness and intention, I re-parent myself. Starting now, I lead with wisdom, compassion, and choice. As always, thank you so much for being here. Next week, we're going to pick up. We're going to talk about some options of actions that you can take that would be in alignment with doing it differently. And then we're going to keep going. So have a great day, and I'll see you next week. That's it for today's episode. Thank you so much for being here and for doing this work. If this episode resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Come connect with me over on TikTok at Robin Breckenridge or Instagram at Coach with Robin, where I share even more insights, tools, and conversations around boundaries, self-trust, relational healing, and so much more. And just a quick reminder, this podcast is for educational and personal growth purposes only. The insights and tools I share are based on my experience as a life and relationship coach and are meant for general guidance. Each person's story is unique, and the nuances of individual experiences can't always be addressed in this format. What's shared here may not be applicable to every situation, especially those involving abuse, oppression, severe mental illness, or systematic harm. If you or someone you know is in crisis, please seek support from a qualified mental health professional or emergency resources. Thank you for listening and for showing up for yourself in this way. Take care, and I'll see you next time.